There's some sleigh ride with the kids. I just remember they closed against the they closed at 9. You can touch my There's some sleigh ride with the kids. I just remember. Not so quiet. Why get so quiet?
Should be good, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the December 13th North Logan City Council meeting. It looks like we are all here today. We will begin with an opening ceremony. Craig will lead us in the pledge, after which Roger will give us the opening prayer.
Stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holy Father, grateful for this day, thankful for the chance to lead as a city council, grateful for the beautiful valley we live in, grateful for the moisture we've seen so far. Thankful for those that work hard in the city to keep it running. Grateful for this time of year and ask that we may look for those in need and opportunities to serve those around us. And say these things in Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily. Second by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then we have our November 1st, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. If anyone has any adjustments to those, or I'd accept a motion to adopt those.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Alan, would you go through follow-up and review of action items?
Sorry. Okay, jumping down through here, we'll go over the Civic Center in a later portion of the meeting. Everyone can see the progress with the city office. I'll go over more of the progress with the community center at the later on in the meeting. Jumping down through here, though, water. We've had several meetings in the past few weeks finalizing our water master plan. They wanted to be ready to have a presentation by January 3rd. But I think it'll be on the second meeting in January that they'll come through. They'll do an overview of the final water model and the water master plan kind of draft for the entire city council. It's much more comprehensive than anything we've ever had in North Logan, which is what we need with all the conservation measures we've done for the past several years. And it'll be fantastic to have that up and running. Along with that, we've been looking at a few different options for funding. We've already explored several in the past, just to be able to complete each of the items that we're looking at for our water system. Sewer, we've been working with the DEQ on our bond. There's so many requirements that we have to do. Right now, the last one is really just land acquisition or easement acquisition for a sewer trunk line in the city of Logan. And so that's the major thing that we're working on with the city of Logan and with several entities in order to receive that last easement, so we can finalize that DEQ bond. Streets, hats off to them. First two snowstorms, they've done a fantastic job. In fact, we've received several emails saying how much faster they were than the surrounding communities. So it's kind of, they just set a standard that it's tough for them to keep up year after year after year. But they've done a fantastic job in the first snowstorms this year. So thanks to them. And then they just repair the trucks for the next storm. Stormwater, they're helping out with that as well and keeping those grates clean. Engineering, they're helping with each of those things we spoke about regarding the water lines, but also the 2500 North 8th East roundabout. We're working on lowering those anticipated costs. We've already taken the roundabout that UDOT kind of proposed because of the funding is federal, it's funneled through UDOT. So it has to meet UDOT standards, but we've shrunken down the roundabout just about as far as we can get so as to not affect the surrounding property owners or make that as minimal as possible. So that's still a goal. And then 6th East, where we're just working on finalizing those. We received the COG funding and the COG grant for those sections from 22 to 2500 North to help with that project in conjunction with the Smiling H subdivision. Jumping through here, obviously parks are out, helping with the plowing process. The other departments do help in that, so we want to thank them. And then they're working on a lot of master planning right now. We're wrapping up a few different projects, but really just gearing up with funding sources and everything else for several capital projects coming up in this next calendar year. Trails, we're working with the county right now, mainly on some of the easements for some of those paths and also some potential grants with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. Recreation, they're in full swing right now. I think the latest that they have for basketball, I didn't know this, but they capped the basketball at 945 people. That's 30% bigger than the next largest city in the valley for basketball, even with a cap on it, meaning they can't even handle any more people than that. And then they've got several other programs coming up, the Holiday Sports Sampler, the Silent Santa, that's for persons with disabilities, which was a very large success this year. And then they have their New Year's at noon and New Year's soccer tournament coming up in the next few weeks. Another thing that's kind of a fun statistic that I didn't know about, over the winter months, after North Logan City has taken over management of the facility of the HSC. So we run our programs, but also all of the existing kind of competitive and other soccer programs are run through Jesse and his department. Every month there's over 34,000 people that attend the HSC or go to games there or participate in sports. So that's just a absolutely off the charts stat that they're putting together. Facilities, they're helping with the city office, the new city office, putting that together. Cemetery, we're doing some plans for the shed. We don't have a shed at the cemetery. It would be nice to have that with the number of burials we now have. We used to average about one every 2 weeks or month, and now it's a little bit more prevalent in our cemetery, and that'll probably continue to increase over time. Community development, the big thing right now, there's several things that they're working on, SB 174 requirements, but also the general plan rewrite, and there's a steering committee meeting this week, so if you receive invites to that, be there to please provide your input on that. Economic development, there's several businesses we're working with right now. We work with site selectors this week, so that's very reassuring. Treasurer working with waste management to still get garbage fine-tuned. They're doing a fantastic job, so thanks to everyone involved in that. Just jumping down through, I'm going to jump through several of these because we'll talk about the audit report tonight. Library cutting waste. That may sound funny because we just went over waste management. Not that type of waste, but with the new library director, you will see these types of things happen where they come in and they just ask the question, why? Why are we doing things a certain way? And it's a really good opportunity to go through. And by doing that, you end up saving probably several $1,000s a year is what we'll see. Coming up, police, they are fully staffed is what I understand. Hats off to them for doing that. And they're training the new officers right now. And fire department, they plan to move into their new station, Station 70, I bet in sometime in January, February. And they'll probably have an open house or a time for us to go through, probably provide a tour, a custom tour from the fire chief, Nate Thompson. So we'll go through that.
Is there a pole to slide down and sirens to run?
So,
We expect that.
I
We have to
really
inspect
enjoyed the
them.
Yes and no we got.
and then we'll work with them on some capital equipment, things that a former chief put together that are being carried forward. So we'll work on those capital equipment, trying to get that lined up. I jumped through several things quickly. If there's other questions that the council has on any particular item.
Okay, any questions for Alan on those? Okay, thank you, Alan. With that, we will jump to recognition of 2 exemplary staff members. We'll start with Karen Jukes. She is nominated by Scott Bennett. He says, Karen Jukes is being recognized as an exemplary employee for going above and beyond her regular regular duties of processing payroll, maintaining employee URS and IRS and PHP and insurance files, and all the associated human resource duties. Karen worked many additional hours this past month, creating all of the Christmas party decorations and overseeing the catering for our employee dinner. Thank you, Karen. I'll just add to that we really appreciate Karen. She does go above and beyond and planned a fantastic Christmas party. So let's give her a round of applause. All right, and then we are recognizing Judy, who's here with us tonight. She's the children's librarian. She's nominated by Trent Bateman. Judy is a shining example of positivity no matter the circumstances. Stepping in as the interim director of the library for the past few months, she not only kept things running smoothly, but made it a fantastic place to work and visit. Everyone always has something good to say about Judy, both patrons and staff. We're grateful for the sacrifices she made for North Logan and the library. Judy's impact is truly amazing. And I'll add to that, I get to work with Judy I've had several chances to work with her with library things, and she's just always a pleasure to work with. And I think what strikes me most is that you can just tell that she loves her job, she loves what she does, and she's there for the kids, and she just is a really great face on the library. And this is the second time she stepped in as interim director. Let's not do that again. All right, let's give Judy a hand of applause. Okay, we are gonna have a lot of clapping tonight, so buckle up. This is one that I'm reluctant to do. We're reluctant to say goodbye to two of our council members. But we have Roger here tonight, who has served for how many years, Roger?
Almost 12 years.
12 years, and also Craig, who has served in some capacity for how long? 1992. So it's been a pleasure to work with Roger. I love to sit next to him, and he says only appropriate things in my ear during council meetings. But truly, Roger is someone that I've always looked to for just his wisdom. I think that he sees things very quickly. He sees the core issue and has I guess taken the high road with not saying I told you so, with several issues that he really saw clearly from the front end, and it took us a little while to get where he began. So we just really appreciate Roger. Let's give him a hand of applause. And Craig, it's been a pleasure to work with you too. I think that we've had the chance to go on a few tours together, and Craig really is just service minded and knows so much about the community and just really cares about North Logan. I think that comes through in how he leads the city. So thank you both for your service. We're going to do an official city presentation, and then I'm going to turn a little bit of time over to Buzzy, but let's give Craig a round of applause as well. All right, I'm gonna make you guys stand up because we have a couple things for you. Buzzy, do you mind helping me out? Oh. Will you grab that? Ladies want to also come out and just do it.
You got it.
Buzzy, stick around here. Things don't stand too mindfully. No, that's should we slide?
Do you want us to get close together?
You can stand right here. Let's stand right here.
Yeah, background. It's screen.
We need the concept. We need to help. You two are in the middle.
Yep.
Everybody's here.
Thank you.
Middle with the constitution.
I know. Maybe the middle.
No, Yeah.
Okay. So boys, just the council wanted to do something independent from the city for you both. And true to history, buying for men is much easier than, I won't say anything else, but you two made it really easy to know what you like. So the council pitched on two things for you both. And Craig, happy to present you with, it's not, oh, this is to Roger. A Locker 42 gift card for Aggie Apparel. Oh, thank you. And Craig, Sportsman's Warehouse. There you go. For all your needs. Thanks, Craig. Thank you so much. And that's from the council and the mayor.
Did either of you guys want any time?
I'll go quick.
I'll let
then
him go
Roger can-
first so I can talk to speak.
Oh, good idea.
No, it's been a pleasure. It really has. I was taught early in life to serve my community. I watched a lot of my family members serve their community. My uncle was the mayor of Millville all the time I was growing up. And so it's just been a pleasure to serve. I started when I moved to North Logan. I married a North Logan girl. Her family is several generations here, so that's what brought me here. And then it's become my home quickly. I've had a good opportunity to be a full-time city employee twice, a volunteer firefighter since 1992. There were three of us that were the charter members that started that fire department. And we put our heart and soul into it because we cared about the citizens of the community. And I never choke up, but it's been an honor to serve, and I've enjoyed it. And then serving on the planning commission and then serving here on the council. I care about the community. And I'll continue to care about the community. And I'm very happy to see one of the accomplishments I'm most happy to see us get is the new city offices. I think that's something the city has deserved for a long time. And that's a great accomplishment that I'm really proud of. It's all yours, Roger.
Well, first of all, I'm grateful for the time I've had. It's been fun. I think I'll miss, mostly working with all the different councils we've had. That one reason everyone had said, well, why did you rerun? I said, because I consider these guys all good friends and all the city staff too. It's always, I think as you get older, you appreciate good friendships. So I appreciate the friendships I'll continue to have, but I'm grateful for the maybe more time with family, and my wife's already planned what we're doing on those Wednesday nights. So we will continue that. Since moving here in 1980, grew up here in North Logan, bought the home I grew up in for my parents. So love North Logan, continue to serve where I need to, and grateful for everyone's advice and what I've learned from this. So.
All right. Well, thank you too. We're sad to see you go, and thank you for your service. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next, which is an even bigger plaque, Chief Hannick. So take from that what you will, but if you don't mind coming up here. Chief Hannick, this feels a little bit like a long goodbye because we've said goodbye several times, but we just really appreciate how much he's done for our community. And we consider him one of our own even before he moved to North Logan. So, but we just always feel like you've put North Logan at the top of your list, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. So we have a plaque here for you tonight. Is this part of your Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
Well, state your name.
Say my name, write my name and address on the sheet. No, thank you again. It truly has been a pleasure to work with each one of you and to serve the community it's been a bittersweet experience over the last month or so to pass the torch. I know you're in good hands. I have tons of respect for Chief Thompson. He's certainly my recommendation, and I know you'll be in good hands. I'll miss working with each one of you and serving the community, but again, thank you for everything, and thank you for this recognition. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Chief Hanig. Okay, we have a secret guest here tonight. We didn't want to tell his identity in the agenda, but it says library staff member introduction. So that is Trent Bateman, if you didn't know that before, but we are so pleased. I feel like this could come across as false, how effusive we're being about everyone, but truly everyone that we've spoken about tonight has just made such a huge contribution to North Logan. Trent, I think you have a lot of that ahead of you, but in the short time that he has been with the library, he's exceeded even our very high expectations of him. I participated in that process of interviewing for library directors and remarked to Alan that if we could have designed a library director that we just thought would be ideal, that is Trent. So I will introduce you to him via his kind of resume, but this says, please join us in giving a warm North Logan welcome to our new library director, Trent Bateman. Trent grew up in the small town of Cody, Wyoming, where he raised ewes with his family along with pigs and horses. Trent was a member of the 4-H and would enter his prize-winning pigs in a county fair. He enjoyed the beautiful outdoors there and did a lot of hiking, camping, and fishing, which he still enjoys with his family. Trent has an extensive educational background. After receiving his associate's degree from BYU in recreation management, I don't need to say that. He then got his master's degree from Utah State University, both fine organizations. Trent enjoys a myriad of hobbies and activities, including reading a good book, performing in musical productions, traveling the world, and spending time with his wife and their young son. We are very excited to have Trent join our incredible library. His vision and work ethic will help North Logan Library expand and fill the proposed library community center with a wide variety of programming for all ages. So with that, if you'd join me in giving him an applause and welcoming him to our city. I see you brought your hype person with you. But truly, Trent, we're very lucky to have you and excited to see what you'll do with the next years. So, okay, and I think that is all for our opening business.
Move to close. Oh, yes.
But I will, if you guys are all absolutely welcome to stay. You are also excused if you'd like to slide on out of here. It may be a little bit long tonight. Thank you for being here. Okay, we will move on to our action items. We're starting with a public hearing to receive public input regarding the city's consideration of declaring the current city offices and associated land 2076 North 12th East as surplus. Following the public hearing, the city council may consider a resolution declaring the city offices and associated land as surplus property. Alan, do you want to give us kind of that lead up?
I'll just give you a really quick overview. We modified the entire city ordinance a couple of years ago regarding the disposal of property. The ordinance is probably 40 years old, and it basically required us to go offer the property to the original owner. You can see how that would be very awkward since most of them had passed away of properties that the city did own. So we cleaned it up and we made it more restrictive than it used to be. There's a lot of steps we need to go through when we're disposing of property, especially real property, meaning land and or buildings. And so this is the first step of many. This one is declaring the property as surplus, meaning there isn't really a need for the city going forward other than just disposing of the property. We can't rezone it before we sell. That used to be an option, but that's something that doesn't feel right. Rezoning it and selling it the next day. But this is the first step. So without a long overdue process, it's basically about half an acre of land with a building that's about 4,000 square feet that's currently zoned community commercial. That's the zoning. It's a really old zone within the city. But that's just a quick overview, obviously, of many steps that will take place, that will take a few months to go through. So this is just the first step. All you're doing is declaring it surplus if that's the route that the city takes after the public hearing. You're not putting it on the market or anything else at this point.
Okay, all right, well, let's have that public hearing then, after which we can discuss this more. So I will open it up for a public hearing on this issue. I'll read the rules for that public hearing. Before you begin, please state your name and speak into the microphone. Limit your statements to 2 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of others, you may ask the chairperson for more time. Phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. Please address your comments to the council, not to the public. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with city council members or appropriate city staff members before the public hearing. You may also provide a written statement as your input. You may read your entire statement or summarize it with the 2-minute limit, and you can give a copy of that to the city recorder, and it will become part of the public record. With that, we'll open up that public hearing. Go ahead.
Russell Goodwin. It sounds as though you've got quite a few steps to go, so I won't be unveiling my whole argument, I guess, at this point. But the first one would be we've got a couple weeks till new council takes its seat. Maybe they should be given an opportunity to consider this, maybe weigh in and make their judgment. I was fortunate in my youth to grow up in a community that had a dedicated city building that was identified as a teen club. And all of us kids would gather there in the evenings and just meet and play. There was a pool table, and on the weekends, some of the kids had formed a band. And so we would have a poor excuse for a dance and get together. But it also afforded the community a means, not so obvious or in one's face, but a means to kind of keep track of the kids and what they were up to. And you have kids that may tend to a little more rebellious line of thinking and kids that don't. And the kids that don't might help inform the community of the kids that do tend to more of a rebellious attitude. I would like to suggest to the city that we keep that as city property, with the possibility of a teen center, maybe a home for a North Logan supported Boy Scout troop. It, from my observations, doesn't seem that the new arrangement in the state is working all that well in support of the Boy Scouts, which I'm sure, as you now know, is co-ed. But it would seem that that might be something the city could offer, was here's a place that we could convene and organize and support a Boy Scout troop.
Okay,
And-
thank you, Mr. Goodwin.
Yeah.
That's 2 minutes if you want to just kind
Okay.
of wrap up.
I'll wrap up just because it's not included, but if you have a value, or if the building and property has been appraised, or if you have any idea what the market value would be, I can't imagine that it's going to really enrich the city for more than a couple of days worth of expenses. And a much better use, it seems to me, a longer term use would be to keep it as a city owned and offered up, as I suggested, a teen center, maybe Boy Scouts, meeting room.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion of this. Any discussion among the council? Just maybe to speak to a couple of things with Mr. Goodwin's points. We are in our, budgeting, we are counting on the sale of this property to offset a portion of the new city offices. That's kind of something that we're relying on. And we're hoping it's more than a couple days expenses. We're hopeful that we haven't had that appraised. We're early on in the process, but anyway, I just wanted to kind of speak to those 2 points. I think those are good ideas. And I think that that's definitely a goal of the cities, is to provide a gathering place. I think that that's, the vision of both the library and then also the community center. So any discussion among council?
Remind me, I know that weren't they originally, when we were talking budget for the new city offices, they were like saying close to like they were kind of counting like $500,000. Did they kind of put a preemptive value before appraisal on? Cause I know
So what we did when we budgeted for the new city offices, and thanks, Mayor, for going over that. Something that's remarkable about the city office, just a side note, is I don't know of another city office where it's fully funded by donations. City capital that they've saved up and the sale of a previous city building, which provides no tax burden to the citizens of the community. If you look around the valley of the 20 other city offices, there isn't a single one that can say that or state that. So that's pretty remarkable. But yes, we just assigned a rough estimate value at that time between like $400,000 and $500,000. And so that was just a play saver as something that would help shore up the cost to provide the final FF&E for the new city offices.
Other questions on this, or I'd entertain a motion on this?
You said this is 4,000 square feet,
Just over 4,000 square feet,
half acre?
a half acre of land, yeah.
Joni's real estate agent wheels are turning. She has the listing written up.
I can't, unfortunately, but
I would actually like to make a motion to move to declare the current city offices and associated land at 2076 North, 1200 East as surplus.
You'd actually approve a resolution.
Never mind.
Sorry.
Can I-
Sorry, I'm saying it
Does
wrong.
that- Can I just ask, I think Russell Goodwin had a good point. Is this something that we can take and have discussion with the community, whether this is something that maybe the community would buy for a community center for kids? The location's nice.
It's something that we could look into, but that would be more at the appraised price or the appraised step in this process.
Okay.
Now it's declaring it surplus, then you can still make a decision regarding that in the future. I would point out though, that the city does have the largest teen program for a library in the valley. And we also have the largest rec program for teens throughout the entire valley as well. It's a valid point. Having something for teens to do is something we want to invest in this community. And so it's 100% valid point that we really need to stress, especially as we move forward in the community. It's also been talked about as a senior center. Several other ideas have come up with, but a lot of that we can handle with the community center coming in. That will be a strong point of emphasis for this addition to the library.
And I think that's declaring this a surplus doesn't bind us to have to sell. So I think,
No.
I think would be irresponsible of the city to not ascertain the true value of that property, just so we know what that dollar value is and where maybe it is wise to keep it there. Maybe it's wise. I know that there was a portion that was planned for the city offices. So if it doesn't go there, we're going to have to figure it out where that comes from. So I'm with you, Joni, but I think this step at least lets us get to that next step of understanding the true value before we have to commit to.
I can tell you the
Toppling
value
it.
right now.
Okay.
Do you want to take another stab at that?
Why not? I'm approving a resolution to declare this surplus. Does that sound right?
You're motioning.
So, oh gosh.
What I heard
Marie,
is you
remember,
are
can-
making a motion
I just need
to,
Marie to just remember in her minutes that I need to sound smarter than whatever's currently coming out of my mouth.
okay, so
Perfect.
on the
I
table
move
is a motion
To
to,
approve a resolution to declare the current city offices and associated land as surplus.
great.
Awesome.
I will
Okay,
second
me.
so that's a motion by Emily, a second by Buzzy. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Next we'll move on to a financial audit report from Allred Jackson. I believe Cody is here to speak to that.
Hi, as mentioned, I'm Cody Bland with Allred Jackson, presenting the audit report. I'd just like to present to you guys with the reports as well as these chocolates.
Yes.
Those go right here.
Makes it more palatable.
You want me to take the
So-
topics?
Yes.
Just to start off, we'd like to say thank you to everyone that was involved with the audit, the staff, Alan and Scott especially. We're working really hard to make this as smooth as possible. It's a lot of work to get this audit done, especially on top of their daily duties they have to take care of. So I'll try to keep it brief as well, so it doesn't bore anyone. But just to hit a few highlights on the report. If you want to turn with me to page 19, it's where the statement of activities is shown. And you can see here that the city, on the third line from the bottom, it shows the change in net position the city had during the year for both the governmental activities as well as the business type activities. And combined, it was a 19% increase in net position, which is really incredible. It's a healthy sign for a city to increase that much for sure. And if you kind of want to see a breakdown for what fund contributed to those increases, you can go to page page 21 shows the statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance for the governmental funds. And you can see that each one of the funds had a positive change in fund balance. Again, that's the third line from the bottom if you want to follow along. And one thing to point out that's has been mentioned previously in the meeting is in the capital projects fund, towards the bottom, there's a large capital contributions amount there. And that, as mentioned before, was for the new building. Those were some contributions and donations that were received through efforts from the city to help fund for the new building, which is, it's really incredible, like was stated, that was able to be done that way. And not add burden to the city members. And then just a couple pages further, you can see the statement of revenues and expenses and change in net position for the enterprise funds. This is page 28. Again, you can see that third from the bottom, the change in net position is positive for each of the funds. This is good because it shows that each of these activities, whether it's the sewer or the water or the stormwater, they're all self-sufficient. They're not operating at a loss and causing additional burden on the city. So that's always something we like to see. Just another thing to note, you can go to page 17. This shows the statement of net position for the city. And you can see that at the bottom there, the total assets for the city from year to year between 22 and 23 increased approximately 10 million, which is again something that's really healthy for a city to continue growing in assets. You always kind of want to see that. This increase is largely due to both the capital assets. You can see the increase there, as well as the cash on hand that was also increased, and that increase is due largely to the donations for the city that was, or the new city building that's being held to pay for the construction. So that's kind of some of the highlights for the financial side of things. Are there any questions about that or the report or any procedures we might have performed before I get to the state compliance findings and things?
I'm just curious, as we spend those donated monies on the city offices, is that going to artificially impact the report next year? Or is there some sort of accounting that you can say, yes, you spent the money that was donated for this purpose?
When you say impact, you mean like show up as an expenditure?
Well, no, I just mean, is that going to raise a flag where, we spend an extraordinary amount of money in 1 year?
Right. It really shouldn't, because when you make purchases for capital items, rather than showing up as, an expense or something like that, it would show up as an increase in assets.
Okay.
So if anything, it would be a positive impact on next year's financials. So.
Okay. Any questions from the council on the financial aspects?
I think just to make a comment, Alan, because I like to be critical sometimes, but the department heads deserve a lot of credit, but really so do you. Like this is your baby and it's outstanding. And I just want to give you my compliments for how well you're running the city from a financial perspective.
I'll say thank you, but I will deflect that because
I knew you would.
No,
I
good
knew
night.
you would,
Veto.
Alan. I had no doubt.
I need to point out something though. In the first year we did this was that we were involved in this was 2017 that I was involved in an audit. We had 19 findings that year. We'll get to our finding. We have one finding this year. We always want to shoot for 0. I never thought it'd be possible, but it was 19 findings. The people that made that very possible though were Scott, Marie, and Allred Jackson. We whittled away at those. We found ways to just say, what are we doing wrong? How can we correct this? How can we revamp everything that we're doing so that we have no findings? That was our goal. Findings are very bad. And having 19 of them was just overwhelming. So
Marie, will
hats
you-
off to those guys for really doing that. That really was a chore and a task in and of itself.
Will you stricken my comments and instead deflect those to you guys? Thank you from Alan.
And we'll second and third and fourth.
Yeah, credit to you, Alan, really, because I know that you started with a mess. So kudos to you. Okay,
Okay, and speaking to the findings, first of all, we want to mention that we do a ton of state compliance testing, just testing for things that the state wants us to, whether that's, you know, following budget procedures or other sort of guidance that they have provided to the cities. And there's quite a few things we test for, and there was none that we found that needed to be reported as a finding. So that is excellent. There was, however, one finding here, which was due to a few journal entries that we had to make, year-end audit adjustments that were not recorded, and they were just one was that a piece of land was capitalized in a prior year and again in this year when it should have just been done the one time, and another was due to some large expenses for the city office building that should have been recorded as a liability and an asset in the year under audit, but wasn't, just because the billing was late. So kind of some unique things that happened that caused this finding, but as you can see, the responses and everything that the city, the staff is aware of those and has taken steps to make sure that a finding like this won't happen again. And so really, it was a great audit report, really clean. Everything looked super great with the city. So we just wanted to say, you know, thank you for making that, to Alan and Scott. Thank you for making that so smooth.
yeah, thanks for your hard work on this. It is comforting to have someone auditing things like OPMA and cash management and you know, Justice Court. It's nice to have as many sets of eyes on that as we can, just to make sure
Right.
that we're doing what we need to do. Any other questions for Cody?
I just really want to comment how readable this is.
That's
I read the digital copy and it really is so easy to figure out.
Yeah, we try to make that.
So I really appreciate that.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We will move on to consideration of a special permit request from Pacific Corp for a substation located at 100 East and 1945 North and transmission lines, along with an exception to allow an 8-foot privacy decorative exterior wall.
Hey, good afternoon, evening, I guess we're at now. This is a project that I think has been brewing for several decades now. Just given the long time it takes to plan for this type of infrastructure. And so we're talking about transmission lines in a substation. Right now we have one substation up near the mouth of Green Canyon. You guys are probably familiar with it. And then transmission lines that head down 18th North towards Main Street and then across Main Street. As the city has grown over the past couple of decades, Rocky Mountain Power has kind of been looking at, you know, how do we augment our ability to provide power with future growth in mind. And in 2006, Rocky Mountain Power purchased this parcel ending in 0046. That's that kind of boot shaped one. And what it represented was a good central location for distribution, made sense at the time. And so they picked that up at, 2006 time period and held on to it, waiting for the demand to increase to where it made sense to move forward with a new facility. Fast forward to 2013, the city updated their general plan, and that's when the vision came about for a city center. That vision continued to work out until we had a city center ordinance, but that kind of gives you an idea as to, how things change over time with visioning, with land use, and for demand for utilities and different infrastructure. So when the city center was envisioned, the city recognized that, hey, if we have a substation here, it might not be the best location. Maybe let's chat with Rocky Mountain Power, PacifiCorp, and see if there's maybe an alternative location that we can work out that can still service their needs for centralized distribution, but also might not be immediately adjacent to the city center. So Rocky Mountain Power, I can't speak to exactly all the discussions that were held over the years, but they ended up picking up a piece of property on First East. And it was about 1950 north, parcel ending in 0008, and then one just to the south there. And it's kind of tucked in behind some commercial uses that front on Main, and then some manufacturing uses kind of in that First East area. And this represents a better location just from a future land use planning perspective, where it's not front and center in our city center, but it's still adjacent and close enough to provide for that anticipated demand. But also for the demand out west, west of Main Street, we have a lot of demand for electricity in our heavy manufacturing commercial area. So that was the site that was purchased by Rocky Mountain Power as an alternative. We have in the staff report a couple of exhibits that kind of show the intent of running a couple of transmission lines from 1800 north, those existing lines, up First East to this site location for the new substation. And the process through which Rocky Mountain Power is required to come to the city for approval is a bit unique. It's what I like to call quasi legislative, because it's technically an approved land use, but it requires a special permit from the city council. So it's not entirely administrative, but it's not also entirely legislative either. And so that's why we're here today with this application from Rocky Mountain Power. We do have the applicant here with us, Steve Lichty. If you guys have any technical questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those for you, just from a distribution and how these types of utilities are used and how they project future demand. But
I just had one.
Yeah.
Is there a benefit that accrues to the neighboring businesses in that new location?
So, good evening, Steve Lichty, Rocky Mountain Power. When you mention a benefit, what?
I'm just
specific-
wondering if that, is there anything that kind of tip the scales in choosing that specific location?
So, yeah, a couple items. Scott did a great job summarizing what we're looking to do here. Essentially, for us to keep rates low to all ratepayers, because when we build capital projects, those are built into our rate base. So a couple of things we look for on these types of projects is proximity to an existing transmission line, which we have. That enables us, to build shorter transmission lines, because that's the most difficult thing for us to permit in the community, as you guys are aware of. So we want to be close to an existing line. The second thing is we also want to be close to our existing distribution network. So the lines that go out into the community and serve the end user, which we are, what our plan is, if we're able to get this permit and move forward, would be to bring one line out to the west. We have an existing overhead line on Main Street, connect to that one with one circuit. The other two circuits would come out, likely cross Second East. This would all be underground and go to the north and connect into existing overhead lines to the north. So really what we're trying to do is minimize impact, minimize the costs associated, so we don't have to pass those costs on to our customers. That's the big driver in selecting this location. And honestly, appreciate Alan and previous Mayor Can. They approached us on this several years ago, and now that we're this far into the process, this is a better location for us as well. And it feels appropriate because of the area it's in, that it's zoned correctly. And
Yeah. Well, as I've kind of been brought up to speed, we appreciate you guys coming to the table. We know that you really didn't have to even have this conversation, so we really appreciate you guys working with the city. Questions from the council for Mr. Lichty?
Yes, but that's just because I don't really understand this at all. Will you ever have to expand from the substation?
so the way we design these now, here's a good shot of the, maybe go down now a little bit further. There was another, this photo here. So the way it's set up now, this is this here's a transformer. So what we do is we build them so we can actually add one transformer on either side. So we wouldn't have to expand the footprint, of the substation, but we have the capability to expand within to add more capacity down the road if we need to.
And what's that projection? Like how long would this, like 2 transformers?
Oh, years,
Process.
part of it depends on growth,
Mhm.
obviously. But I would think this, as currently designed, would probably last us for at least 25 years.
Oh, okay. Without that second transformer?
Yeah,
Okay,
but again, that's dependent on growth.
Sure.
And we know there's more growth out on Airport Road, et cetera, that could change that dramatically.
sure.
So your line coming off the transmission line will be the high elevation line over to the transformer and then underground probably going
Correct.
east with overhead tying into Main Street.
Yeah, so
Going west.
the high voltage is overhead. Serving, coming in, providing the high voltage energy into the substation, then everything that's distribution, low voltage will come out underground. And connect into the existing system.
How tall is that high elevation line?
So these, I am not certain on the height of that pole, I would guess probably, so this is an existing pole.
Yeah, they're way.
That one will get swapped out. I would say they're 85 to 90 feet tall.
And the ones going down First East will
They'll
be
be
the
the
same
same,
height,
yeah.
right?
This one will be the tallest,
Okay.
and then the corresponding will be a little bit
They'll-
shorter.
Oh, they'll step down. to
Yeah.
the- Okay.
Will they be, what do you have there now? Are they wood or metal on 18?
They are wood.
Do you
occasional
same or
metal.
do you do metal?
So traditional, I mean, we use wood unless they're on like dead ends or angles, and then we're required to put in a steel structure. So that corner, this one will be steel. One across the street will be steel, and then I would assume the next 3 will be wood.
You'll see an occasional metal one going down 18th or 19th North, like you said, to transition across.
Yeah.
Which I know nothing about.
The
Just
funny
see the
thing is
metal.
I've never noticed it, so that's probably a good sign.
I remember when they went in though.
So
Yeah.
I very vividly.
I have one in my front yard, so.
There is
I
a
don't even
his-
notice it.
yeah, there is
There's
a
like things I don't
history here. I
notice.
understand that. And that again, like I mentioned earlier, is part of the goal for us to locate these close to existing facilities, so
Yeah.
we don't have to. Cause that is havoc for us as well as it is for the community, and
Yeah, I'm feeling like you, Mayor. I think this is a much better location.
Yeah.
This is a good win for the city.
Okay, do you want to make a motion on that?
Yes, I
Betsy?
will. I motion to grant the permit request to Pacificor for the substation located at First East 1945 North, along with the transmission lines and an exception, which I think was really important as well, that we didn't talk about, for the 8-foot privacy decorative exterior wall.
Okay, do you maybe, I think I cut you off a little bit, Scott.
Oh,
Do you want to maybe elaborate that? And then
Just-
we'll vote on the motion.
Just a reminder to adopt the facts, findings and conditions
Oh,
of the staff report.
thanks, Scott. So let me
But
just,
Can you speak to the wall just briefly? I mean, just so that we're,
Now, I'm going to just scroll the last page of the staff report. This is an example of an existing substation. This, I believe, is an 8-foot wall, if I'm not mistaken. But they'll be required to put in something that matches something similar to this, where it's completely screened. The landscaping in and around that walled off structure will be a water-wise landscape per our commercial requirements. And those are some of those conditions that you'll find in the staff report. So if you adopt the facts, findings, and conditions of the staff report, that's all covered.
The
Okay.
exception is our rule is 6 feet high unless the city
Yeah.
council approves
Yeah,
for
4 feet.
specific needs. like
Okay.
this.
Correct.
okay, so Buzzy, do you want to just addend your?
yes, I'll just, Maria, addend to my original motion and also accept the adopt the facts and findings from city staff.
Okay,
Second.
so
And
motion by
conditions, do we
Buzzy,
have to-
second by Craig. Did you have something,
We
Emily?
have to add, you said conditions. Do we have to add facts, findings and conditions? Do we have to say conditions?
If you want those conditions, so there are a couple in there, if you'll notice, one is the fence
I-
itself, saying, hey, you need to put the fence in. The other 2 are.
Okay,
let's
hold on.
see.
Sorry,
No,
I
I'm
want to make
glad
sure
you
we're
got
doing
it
it
right.
right. It's not-
What was that, San Juan County? We can thank them.
Yep,
So one's just a nod to the existing franchise agreement that we have with Rocky Mountain Power. So they need to install and operate those transmission lines in the substation in accordance with that existing agreement. The fencing is number 2, and then the
waterways.
landscaping on the outside of the
Okay,
fence.
So I'm gonna addend one more time. And I'm gonna, original motion plus adopting the facts, findings and conditions as recommended by city staff.
Okay, so motion by Buzzy, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to consideration of a proposed plat amendment for lot 37 in the Wildercrest subdivision.
Okay, so this project is kind of more of a paperwork thing than anything. This particular lot, when it was originally platted, had some non-buildable area on the uphill slope. And the owner of which approached the city a couple of years back and asked what would have to happen to amend that non-buildable area and to be able to put a home in that area that was originally marked as non-buildable. And the city's engineer put together a list of items that they would have to do to allow for an adjustment to the non-buildable area for the footprint of the home to go where it was desired. You'll see that letter from our engineer as one of the exhibits in the report. But this particular owner has worked through those requirements, the last of which was to amend the plat to show that the non-buildable area had been changed based on the findings of the geotechnical report that reviewed on-site, specifically this location for the home that was proposed to be built, and followed those recommendations in the building process. So they knew that the home would be safe within that particular area. So this is kind of that last item to amend the plat, change the non-buildable area per that geotechnical report. And that needed to be accomplished before a certificate of occupancy would be issued on the home itself. So the home is nearing completion. We're just kind of wrapping up this last item. We also want to make sure that this was completed because if anybody were to own that property and wanted to sell it later and somebody doing due diligence saw that, hey, why did you build a home in the non-buildable area? You know, that doesn't seem like a good idea. Then we have the paperwork to back up how it was approved, the engineering that went into it. And then, you know, a future owner would feel a little bit more comfortable purchasing the property.
So the first question I thought of when I read this, I was going to text you today. Sorry, I didn't in advance, but how would building on this lot have happened before this process? Is that pretty typical or was this a miss?
It's a bit of a miss.
Okay.
Yeah, typically we'd like to catch this beforehand and say, let's go through this process and let's make sure that this is done before we issue the building permit. What kind of happened here was they did request a building permit. We did not issue the permit until at least a geotechnical analysis was complete. And so we knew that it was safe to issue the permit, but we should have amended the plat as part of that process before the permit went out the door. So this is kind of a cleanup item, but we're making sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's.
And side note on this entire subdivision, just so you guys are aware, these triggers helped catch this, but when this subdivision was originally approved, it did not include a thorough geotechnical report. It should have been required by the planning commission at that time. So in lieu of that, when they approved phase 2, they required each lot to do a geotech report. This one, an extensive report to have this approved in order to be able to build on that lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that with these new changes with SB 174 that we'll talk a little bit more over the next couple of months. One of the things that we're looking to change in our review process is to require a geo reconnaissance on every subdivision in a geohazard area, which kind of gives us a broad overview of what the potential hazards are in the area within that subdivision boundary. But then also require for each building permit to submit a geotechnical analysis site specific before we issue a building permit. So that's an improvement that we'll see coming down the line with these amendments.
So in the future, are those lots to the south? Are we going to be doing the same process at the building permit phase?
If they're seeking to change the non-buildable area, you kind of see in this exhibit, the topography is a little bit more amenable to a building footprint a little bit further south. But I still think, you know, some of these lots may still have slopes that are, you know, at 10 to 20, maybe 25%. It's not a bad idea to get a geotechnical report, especially, I mean, if I personally were to buy one of these lots, I'd want to get one just to be safe, make sure if I ever have any future insurance claims, I can go back to say, look, I covered the gamut of what I should have done before I built a home.
Just as a side note, Scott wasn't around for this. Each of these are required already. So they have to have a geotech report regardless on every lot on Wildercrest phase 2. So when they come in, they're required before they get their building permit to have a geotech report.
I actually think going south too, most of those have already.
Yeah,
are
all
occupied.
the lots that are in phase two along that upper road are required.
Yeah.
Is that a plat note on this?
I don't know if it's on this or the next one.
To look
It's
into
either
it?
that and the development agreement for phase two.
That's good to hear that as a requirement. Yeah.
Okay.
So, there was also a change in the boundary line. The property owner to the north, they went through a boundary line agreement. So you'll notice between, if you take an image here. You kind of see the property line change slightly. They just exchanged a little bit of land. And they did that through a boundary line agreement, which was outside of this plat amendment.
I'm trying to find, where are you looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Kind of straightened it out, made it a little bit more usable. The Bonneville Shoreline Trail kind of runs through this area, so we made sure to have that easement maintained on this lot. But yeah, that was just a deal that was worked out between those two owners. So they adjusted their property line outside of the plat amendment. I typically prefer that they go ahead and do that in a plat amendment, because then we can verify that they're not creating an illegal lot mistakenly. But state code allows for that to be done. And the recorder's office will record a deed, that will change lines, which is problematic sometimes, but as part of this plat amendment, they're just platting the boundary as it's already been adjusted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready for a motion on this? Roger, is it now your hour?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed plat amendment of the oh no, that's the wrong one. Consider proposed amendment of lot 37 in the Wilderness subdivision. Is there
Okay,
staff findings in that too?
There are, yeah.
And then we also, along with that, approve the staff findings and conditions and adopt the facts, findings, conditions from the city staff.
There you go.
Nice. Okay, motion by Roger,
Second.
second by Buzzy, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to consideration of a proposed plat amendment of the North Cache Business Park subdivision located at 500 West, 2500 North.
Yeah, Alan, if you just want to go to that plat. I guess the aerial is helpful too. This is very similar to this last item on the agenda. It's a plat amendment, where this particular subdivision has been recorded for quite some time, but a new owner purchased 3 of the lots in the subdivision, and they went down to the recorder's office and just merged the 2 lots together outside of a plat amendment. And then requested the building permit and design review for an automotive shop. And when we recognize that, hey, when we change the number of lots in a subdivision, that technically does need to go through a plat amendment. The previous one was just a boundary line adjustment. This one actually changes the number of lots in a subdivision. This should have gone through a plat amendment process through the city from the onset, but it didn't. It went to just the county recorder's office without our oversight. But it's not that big of a deal. It means that we are now kind of doing a cleanup on it as well. So they merged these 2 lots 3 and 4 together, because they wanted to put the building right on the center line of it. And so we said, okay, look, guys, we can do this. We just need to go through the right process. You guys need to submit a request for a plat amendment, submit that plat, go through the process, get it recorded, and then we can issue a certificate of occupancy on the building. So very similar to the last one, but this one's just in a different location, reducing the number of lots from 4 down to 3. One thing that is different on this plat is we have requested a public utility easement around the perimeter of those adjoined lots. And we're changing the setback slightly. The property owner to the northwest requested that they adjust those self-imposed setbacks. It's a private lane, and they wanted to expand the existing building slightly, and all owners agreed in that subdivision to adjust those setbacks. So that's part of this amendment. You guys have any questions of what
I'm
it is we're
just
doing?
curious, how
here?
do we avoid this?
It's an issue that is statewide. Anybody can work with a private land surveyor, drop a quit claim deed, take it down to the recorder's office and record it. That doesn't mean that it's legal. It just is a recorded document and an exchange of property between 2 property owners that are agreeing. It doesn't mean that the resulting boundaries are legal based on land use requirements in a local municipality. And it's been problematic for a lot of cities. And what can happen if, for example, one neighbor says, yeah, I'll sell you 10 feet of my side property. Why not? I don't really care. What can happen is if you're right at the width for your lot for the zoning minimum and you sell your neighbor a couple of feet thinking no big deal, you could inadvertently create an illegal lot because it no longer meets the zoning for width. And that's a problem. And it happens quite often. So they should come to the city for review and we say, yep, that looks good. You can go down to the recorder's office and record it. But you have to set up an ordinance for that to be required. And even if it is required, a lot of people will just go down to the recorder's office regardless and do it without even talking to the city. Causes a problem for them, causes a problem for us. If we have to say, hey, we need to remedy this issue, you might have to go purchase a few feet back from your property owner. But yeah, we talk about this quite often at conferences where the recorders are saying, look, we just record documents. That's all we're tasked to do. We're not looking, we don't review anything. We just record the document. And we say, but they need to have land use approval, or they should have land use approval just to negate some of these potential issues. And it just hasn't been resolved. So it's an issue that exists. People can do it without oversight and it can cause some problems.
So as part of this, normally down those lot lines, there's the public utility easement. Do we need to vacate that as part of this as well?
That's a great question. No, the answer is,
Because
I
it's
thought that
taken
there,
care of.
yeah, I thought that there
Okay.
was actually an easement. If you want to find that old plat, there's setback lines that look very similar to easement lines, but when you look really closely, it's not a public utility easement. It's just a setback.
Okay.
And so, no, we don't. If there was an easement that had to be vacated, we'd have to go through a very different hearing process. We'd have to notify,
Yeah.
all the utility providers, put out signs, all the full gamut. So those center lines here, those are setback lines, they're not utility lines. The utility easement is this
Oh, okay. Right.
When I first looked at it, I was like, we gotta do a plat amendment and an easement vacation. But as I looked at it a little bit closer, it's like, oh, okay. Not a big deal, but we probably do want a utility easement around the perimeter, which we requested, and they went ahead and put it on that plat that's being amended.
Okay.
Swing at it, Mayor.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I propose that we approve the plat amendment for the North Cache Business Park subdivision and adopt the facts, findings, and conditions as recommended by city staff.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Craig, second by, was that Joni?
Emily.
Oh, Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Just as a side note, is this Mayor Thompson's property? Is that the Jason Thompson?
It is Jason Thompson. I don't know if he's here
Yes.
tonight.
Just curious. Okay,
Yep.
that's why I said it after the motion. Okay, we'll move on to consider approving the appointment of Ronald Bushman as a member of the Cache Valley Transit Board representing the cities of North Logan and Hyde Park. Alan, you want to speak to this one? Did I skip one?
This one's kind of a shorter item.
Yeah, all you wrote was consider Ron, so.
Consider Ron. You guys, some of you, that was probably, I should have provided a longer description, but what it is it's more of a formality that every few years, the Cache Valley Transit District Board requires that the cities not reappoint, they basically just give their high five. I don't know how else to say it, basically approval of who's serving on the board. And the representative for these two communities is Ron Bushman. Ron is a resident of North Logan. He used to be part of the CVTD. He's moved on to bigger and better things, but he is a man of a wealth of knowledge of how transit districts are run and operated. He's very knowledgeable and very helpful in that regard. We're lucky to have him in North Logan City serving on that. And so this is basically just an approval of that appointment that he's already serving in right now and would continue to serve in that position.
Okay, any questions on that one? There was kind of just a board readjustment mandated by a change in code in, I believe it was state code, where they had to reduce the number of representatives on that committee. So this is kind of resulting from that. Any questions, or I'd entertain a motion on this?
No, I motion to approve the appointment of Ronald Bushman as a member of the Cache Valley Transit Board representing the cities of North Logan and Hyde Park. Did I cut you off again, Joni? Do you have some questions? Are you gonna? I mean,
Okay.
I've motioned wrong about 6 times, so.
Motion by Emily, sounded good to me. Joni, did you have something?
I'll second her.
Okay, second by
Yeah,
Joni.
well,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to discussing our upcoming meetings for this next year. Looks like we have a calendar in front of us. Is this done by Scott?
I wish I could take credit for it. Scott did this.
Strong work, Scott.
So thanks to Scott for going through this. This is fantastic. It goes through and it looks at a few of the weeks where like the Utah League of Seasoned Towns Spring Conference and the Fall Conference are occurring, or areas where there would be conflict with other events or community events or holidays, where we've kind of adjusted those. Normally we kind of go through the year and adjust those on the fly. The city council does as needed. But this is a little bit more forward thinking and having everything in front of you at one time. Obviously, the city council can make changes to this as needed throughout the entire year. This is something that the state mandates that that you pass a resolution approving. It's more the tentative dates and times of the meetings for the following year.
Okay, any input on this? I know the April 10th date is tricky for me, but I think that would be only the second meeting I've ever missed. So, and that April's a tight month. I think if we moved that,
We
it
should
would
definitely hold that meeting.
do it
Yeah, I
back
was
to
gonna say,
back.
I don't think we can get away from not.
Out.
Just teasing you.
No concerns for me. It looks good.
Okay. Then do we need to, we do need to adopt
a
a
resolution.
resolution. Okay, then I would entertain a motion on that resolution.
Motion to adopt the dates, times, and locations for the city council planning commission meetings for calendar year 2024 and adopts all facts, findings, conditions from city staff.
I'm gonna cut that part
I'm just
off.
gonna be
That's
safe.
ridiculous.
Just gonna be safe.
Okay, motion by Buzzy,
I'll second.
second by Joni, all in favor?
Safe. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Better to
that
be safe than sorry, right, Alan?
motion passes.
San Juan County, man.
We got through our action items. We'll move on to our work session items. First, updates regarding greenway services within North Logan City. I could probably speak to that. This
Leave it
is,
to the trash, sorry. You can
if,
run through
if
this.
only I had a hat that said that. So we had a meeting with all of the consortium members. Waste Management, this is kind of a point of negotiation because originally in their bid, they bid on every other week service at, trying to remember what that was, $9, I believe.
$9 for 0.
When we did the Greenway survey, everyone was overwhelmingly in support of weekly green waste bin removal from April through October. March, excuse me. So what's currently proposed, and Waste Management is going to come back with, a more formalized agreement on this, but is to raise the green waste to $11.50, keep the extra can fee to $8.50, and then roll off bins, kind of where that landed. Different cities have different needs with the roll off bins. Specifically in North Logan, that's been a really tricky thing because we're so close to other cities who don't offer a green waste bin. And so we would often get commercial green waste and also green waste from Logan City citizens, Hyde Park, Smithfield even. And so we're kind of in a tricky position where we'd have to monitor those bins 24/7. So we have to pay the staffing costs for that. And they fill up very, very quickly. So a little bit different from somewhere like Clarkston where they have a bin, and they really don't have the monitoring issues that we do in our city. So what Waste Management is offering is that we can do roll-off bins if we want to. So we could do that in a spring cleanup or fall cleanup day. And then yeah, any other questions on that? That's just kind of the proposal as it exists right now. And like I said, that will be formalized later, probably in January. I'm surprised you guys don't have more questions. It's a fast.
I'll make a comment since I'm leaving. I think that people can drive to the dump and not cause the headache we're close enough to it. I think it's great to have a green waste bin, but I don't know about weekly. It's mulch.
That's
Do you
the
think
first-
having How
By
did
the time you
cleanup
cut up
day
stuff, it
go?
doesn't even fit in the can.
So you guys brought up two very good questions. One, some of the mayor will probably have to answer because I'll butcher this, but the Logan City is doing a study for green waste, so there might be some implications with that regarding going and dropping it off at the dump. So that's another thing we have to keep in mind. What type of rates will they be coming out with? The other option for a city of our size, like the mayor just described, green waste it was a nightmare for the city staff. We would have to monitor that 24/7. We'd have to have people on site going over, cleaning up the green waste daily. Our bins were full by 8 a.m. Most cities had 1 to 2 bins. We had 3. Our bins were full by 8 a.m. every day throughout the entire season. And anything beyond that, we would have to go clean up ourselves so that Logan would come in and dump that. I don't think anything else is going to be very different. We offered so in lieu of that, North Logan did a spring cleanup, or a fall cleanup. What did we do?
Spring. That's in May.
Spring cleanup in May. So it's just kind of 2 nightmare days is what we did, or 3 nightmare days, 2 nightmare.
2. I think it was Friday, Saturday.
Friday, Saturday for the staff. Bought them a bunch of food, bribed our employees to go out and monitor that throughout the day, helping people as they came in every single time they dump. Like it was literally like a truckload. Someone would bring they trim their apple trees. They bring them by, dump. It fills up an entire green waste. So we'd have to go and push it down, clamp it down that entire day. So it's nonstop work for those 2 days, monitoring, helping, making sure that we had that. And then we paid to dump them twice during that time. There were a lot of fees that Logan
Yeah, you need
charged
to be
us.
explicit about that because I think that has to be part of our calculation in offering that 7,000.
7,000, that's just the fee we received from Logan. That does not include staff time, any other time, loader time, to
dump
take
it.
care of that. Just to the 2 dumps that we had in that time.
charged 7,000 for 2 dumps.
Yeah, but we had 7 green waste bins over there during that time.
Okay.
That's a lot of money.
But I mean, I think that I've been told that it's a unique priority in our county that people have become accustomed to it. One thing that we explored just on that committee is whether there's a moral component to making sure that green waste doesn't go in our landfill, and there's really not from an environmental perspective. I know that like, is it tantamount to recycling? And the answer is really no. We're fortunate to have a facility that actually recycles our recycling products into insulation. But as far as green waste goes, actually what Waste Management is telling us is that actually helps to have green waste in the landfill. It kind of helps. It's organic material. It's not and so I think this is something we're going to have to evaluate on an ongoing basis. It can be pretty tricky politically because people really love it, but I think that we've been forced to change. I think all of us would have preferred to stick with Logan and the status quo because it worked for us. But we're being forced to change here, and we're going to have to make decisions based on the facts as they exist today, not what we want them to be. So as Alan mentioned, Logan currently is going through a rate study. There's been some hint that they can go as drastic as charging the same amount of money for green waste as they do for residential waste. That would be catastrophic for us. What the consortium has discussed in the event that is the outcome is that the consortium would completely cease green waste operations. So I think the good thing that I can report to you is that because we do have a consortium of cities, we do have a lot of bargaining power. And so, but there are some things that are outside our control with rates.
The other thing that's a positive in this entire kind of green waste discussion is that Logan received that major grant from the federal government, from the EPA regarding their green waste composting. What that is they take the sludge, the stuff from the mechanical wastewater treatment plant that cannot be treated and turned into water safe enough to discharge into the Little Bear River. And that sludge they combine with the green waste to turn into a composting mix. And that's what the grant is for. So they can continue providing that. And that's purchased primarily by a lot of large farming operations throughout the area. But they do have to continue that as part of that grant.
Yeah, so that would be a big deal if the consortium said we're not going to send our green waste your way. I think there's some bargaining power there. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And then the two options, this is really up to the city council and up to the waste consortium as they talk about these things. But as the mayor said, it's unheard of outside of this valley to do green waste or things of this nature. But everyone in the valley, it's a high value for citizens throughout this area. They use it constantly. And so looking at a spring and fall cleanup, even though it is a nightmare for the city staff, looking for options to do that, to at least provide an element of green waste for free for those months, not free for the city budget, but free without pay for those two instances. Some likely scenarios, though, we learned this year, you have to do it after the leaves have fallen. So November 15th through 16th would be a logical date or event. And then in the spring, ironically, North Logan City's Founders Day, the date Ralph Smith's home was dedicated is on a Saturday this year, April 27th. Could be an opportunity. We did a day of service this past year on those dates, tree planting. So it could be an opportunity to do something on those days as well.
Okay. I also just wanted to mention too that outside of this, Waste Management has pledged that if we do have a wind event like we have in the past, that they will be available too for those kind of extraordinary cleanups. So just so that's kind of in our minds. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that?
Just real quick, add two things. One is, if we don't provide some type of services, we end up with more people that keep that on the property, then they want to burn it. And then we have more issues with burn permits, air quality, and a lot of other things. So hopefully we can add that into the discussion to try to prevent that. And then I did have a conversation with an individual today that's looking at a high temperature vegetative incinerators and wanting to bring them in as a business. And I'm sure there's cost involved with that. It's pretty preliminary, but they burn at a high temperature with very little emissions. That would be pretty interesting if that develops.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Craig. Okay, we'll move on to updates about North Logan's water capital improvement projects. Tell us good news, Jordan.
Full of good news today, except for Craig. Hey, thank you guys for all you've done for us for the last so many years. Craig, the offer still stands anytime you wanted a plow truck. Just let me know. Roger.
One storm, I'll plow one storm.
You got it. Roger, that doesn't go for you though. No, I'm sorry.
You got to earn it.
Wait a minute, we don't get a day to be a snow plow driver? We've been everything else.
If you want to.
Never on garbage day.
That's when it snows, Thursdays. So as Alan mentioned, our water model master plan's almost complete. Be coming back in January with some updates on that. The 2500 North water line construction is underway. You'll see that come down probably Monday, Tuesday of next week. We'll be filling that in and start on the water line. Lead and copper, as Emily has learned, is out. So people are getting those surveys. It's from the EPA run program. So we're trying our best to see what we can get back. And then the plant updates, we did receive bad news. We applied for the DNR grant. We were on the funded list, but they cut the funding altogether for that program. And so we did, though, apply for a interest-free loan through that, just to have an option. So we'll see how that comes back. So anyway.
And this is just maybe a commentary, take it or leave it. But my frustration with this generally is that we're getting a ton of pressure from the state to build more and more homes, to build affordable homes, to provide places for our children to come back and live. And then we were wiped clean of funding for grant projects that were granted last year. And they just wiped that slate. So this is really frustrating. I had a meeting last week with our legislators, and I feel like we have a really good pipeline with them so they kind of understand the implications of this, that you can't demand one thing but withhold funding for what makes that possible. So I'll be communicating that to our legislators on behalf of the city. And it's something that we're gonna have to watch closely in this upcoming legislative session. Yeah, so.
And aren't we supposed to, in our general plan, have a water component? So
Mhm.
they like to explain how we're supposed to do it. Scott?
Oh.
No, not now. No, sorry. I just meant like our legislatures are asking us a lot and we're supposed to have
Yeah.
this water component. And then they're like, oh, by the way, get this in, but don't. I don't know.
Good luck, Scott.
Yeah.
I can speak.
Why,
Yeah,
Scott, why?
Scott, I'm mad at you. You're the
That's-
problem.
This is actually a really good segue. Yes, our general plan is mandated by the state before 2025 to include a water element that is tied to our land use. So we need to make land use decisions based on our water resources. So if we don't have water resources, the land use really can't go anywhere. So this is very, very integrated in our decision making, and it will be more so going forward. So
'Cause this is going to affect our moderate income housing plan, which we are complying on currently.
currently, so the way that the goals are written indicates that we need to look at our water resources before we make big decisions on zoning. And one of the contingencies was that we finish our water master plan, that we get some water capacity analysis conducted. How much water do we have based on this infrastructure that we're planning on installing, and then extrapolating the land use component from there. And without these projects able to move forward without funding, it makes it very difficult for us to say, okay, what is our future water resources? What does that look like? And how does that tie to land use? So our general plan, we'll have to look at that. It's mandated by the state that we look at that and we tie it together. So yeah, they're tied very closely and even more so going forward.
Okay,
So how much money was that? Is that $1 million?
yeah, it was a
It
million.
was for a million, so around 800,000 to $2 million. It's a chlorine contact chamber to increase the time that the chlorine's in contact before it goes into the reservoirs. It's a new requirement. So we didn't used to have that requirement. Now it's a new requirement. We have to meet that.
Okay. I very explicitly said good news, Jordan. Come on. Let's talk about our updates on the Civic Center.
I can just go over that really quick. We talked about the Civic Center. We talked about the city office, the status that we're at right now. They're putting in sheetrock right now, finalizing a lot of the electrical. And then once all the sheetrock's in, it almost feels like an office on the inside. Then we'll start the finalization of the entire building, which is exciting to see that moving forward. We've had a few meetings this week where everyone basically just says in every meeting it's about time. So this has been a great process to go through and see that. It's getting exciting right now. And all of the options we will have for meetings for emergency response, emergency operations that can be run out of this, the constant CERT meetings. North Logan is the only city that has a community emergency response team. And so having those types of meetings held in this facility would be fantastic. But then also the community center.
Alan, what's the completion date for the city offices? Sorry, I asked this and I keep.
The
We're
actual
rough
hoping
estimate.
for spring is what I
Spring,
keep telling
Sometime in
people.
spring.
February is the date, but it'll probably be March or April, I'd say, before we're in the building and up and running.
And we're still gonna be it's tricky because we're still waiting on an electrical component that won't be here till June, so. Yeah, but we should be able to still move in.
We'll just put a generator outside and keep going.
Will
But
the
the
air conditioning work? Like,
Look, let's not
like
get
90
spoiled,
degrees.
Fuzzy.
the community
Never
center
wear a
though,
sweater again.
probably next week or the week after, we'll finalize the bonds for that building. And then in the spring or summer, we'll probably need to set a date for groundbreaking to move forward on that facility, which is really exciting as well. To have that, we still need to do a little bit of fundraising, but I'd say we're mainly there with that building, which is really exciting. Again, to have zero debt, other than just paying off a loan that has an endowment helping pay that off, but the city not being in debt as far as paying anything out of general fund, other than the initial capital costs. So that's basically where we are with both of those buildings.
Okay, any other questions?
I want to make a comment. Alan will hate me, but I was talking to Alan at the Christmas party, by the way. That was fun. Thank you. But Golden West, my company, just built a brand new building, and our HR director was very explicit because she was excited. So number one, I would say is moving into your new building. Number one, all furniture goes to the USU bid sale. No furniture allowed from that building to the new building. Number
second
two, and I'm not ripping, but they really enacted a big, huge clean desk policy because their big thing is that when you're entrusted with people's money and different things, you want to have I think sometimes when you've been in a city office for a long time, there's a tendency to, the more you have piled up, the more it looks like you're busy. But I think you can have a clean desk policy. And I think you're on display here. So you have a big, beautiful building. So maybe some new HR policies for clean desk policy that you sign.
Okay, Dad.
There you go.
It's a good.
And it starts with
love that
Alan.
Roger on
It
his way
starts with
out is
Alan's.
like,
I've seen Alan's desk.
So y'all need to clean
How's
your
it
desk.
going right now?
Anyway.
It's spick and span. Roger brings up a good point, though. We are going from a grocery store that's been a historic element within the city, and we've kind of just let things go over the years in that building. It's pretty strict, and the staff may not be too happy with me because there's strict requirements moving into this building. We will have paintings, artwork, things hung on the wall are put up with command strips. That's how strict we're going into this new city office. Yes, it's all new furniture on the main level. Jordan may have to
Main
put up
level, no
with
old
some old furniture in the basement.
Public
yes.
Works gets to make do.
Oh, yes, Roger, thank you. That is good advice.
Okay.
Pick up furniture.
Let's move on to reports from city officers. Let's start with Chief Goodrich.
All right, thank you. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to Roger and to Craig. Appreciate your service, your support. You've been fantastic over the years, and we do recognize that, appreciate it. So thank you. We also this week have had a very busy week as a PD. So I wanted to start first with our stats and then kind of give you an update on our end of the week event. So we had 94 calls this week for service, and we had 125 traffic stops. So this is the first week since I've been chief that we've actually had more contacts with the citizens than we have had calls for service. And it's fantastic to see that us back out in the community and that happening as well. Our end of event week was our Shop with a Cop that happened on Saturday. And I sent Alan a few photos, but we also I brought some coins for you that I wanted to pass out real quick.
Thank you. Fast around.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chief.
So this event is a fantastic community event, and it's spearheaded by North Park Police Department. Every year, we manage to get that together and to find enough volunteers and enough police officers to host this many kids. This year, we had 42 kids that we ended up helping with and doing breakfast with. We started Cache County Sheriff's Office in the morning with the breakfast, and then we take them down to our patrol cars, and we provide an escort up 10th West and 2500 North, and then back down into Walmart with the lights and siren. The kids are doing the siren and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. We bring Santa in. If you have the picture of Santa as you scroll through those, Alan. This is
A famous North Logan resident, Santa,
yep.
or
good
North
president
Logan
here.
employee.
He helped us out in that endeavor, and it was like I said, it was a really great event. This year too, we had help with the wrapping of the presents from the city councils. I know Joni was there.
Way to represent, Joni.
Thanks, Joni.
It was wonderful. And it went so much smoother this year. We had a lot of great compliments from Walmart and from the people that came there. And like I said, it was a great event. So we thank you again for your support. As part of that, this is the first year too that we've had a coin made, and we wanted to show our appreciation for that to you. So thank you. And we hope that you can put that on your new desk with a lot of gratitude and pride.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you get a chance to read the Cache Valley Daily write-up of that, it really Chief put North Park in the forefront of that, and it was just a really great thing for our communities. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief Thompson, not just interim chief.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah. Let's clap for him as he walks
I don't
up.
think your picture in the paper had the stash. Yeah, you have
Oh,
to get cleaned
I don't
up
like
a little
that at
bit for
all.
that picture. Yeah.
No, thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, I would really like to quickly recognize Chief Humphreys as well for his service to the valley for, gosh, Craig, how many years in the fire service? 32, right? So it's amazing. He's a integral part of the fire department, obviously in Logan City, North Logan, all the area would correct, but so much institutional knowledge. And thanks, Craig. We appreciate you. And along those lines, did just get notified, just to let you know, the public protection classification, which is our ISO rating, North Logan actually hasn't had a rating done since 2015. And with the consolidation of the fire department, we'll be actively doing that probably in the springtime. So it's really perfect timing. I was just talking to George. Sounds like that water assessment will be done in January. So we'll look at that and hopefully that improves some numbers. So that'll be coming up. I'll keep you posted on that. Obviously it can affect, and hopefully for the better for, for private and commercial insurance rates. So we'll keep you posted, but that's a really new development that just kind of popped. I just talked to them, that the company that does the assessment yesterday.
Okay.
So,
Great.
and I think really other than that, just Merry Christmas and thank you. And I look forward to working with you, Mayor, and the council. So
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Scott.
So the chief grows his mustache overnight if he didn't
I
have
know.
this picture.
It's bizarre. I think fire professionals grow them quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick update on the general plan. So tomorrow we have our first steering committee meeting. Steering committee is made up a couple of members of the council, the planning commission, and members of the public, just as a very broad steering committee for some feedback to our consultant, make sure we're going in the right direction. So when we're providing feedback to the planning commission as a whole, the council as a whole, the public, that we're kind of going in the right direction, following, the feedback of that steering committee. So tomorrow, a few of you folks are on that, 5:30 before planning commission. From there, starting in Q1 of next year, we'll do all of our public input and all of our surveying and all of our open houses, and we'll have a lot of public outreach. So that's on the horizon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. Jordan, anything? Nothing, no more bad news that you can tell us? Okay, Scott Bennett. Okay, Marie? Mayor's message. Yeah, I would love if I weren't doing the same months. Happy to write them as frequently, but I only have so many New Year's mayor's messages in me. So, yeah, that would be really great if you guys don't mind, even if we just shift down one. I'm actually fine to do January just because it's coming up. I think my deadline's tomorrow. Is that right, Marie? Oh,
She's giving you some extra time. She must really like you.
Just you.
okay. So I'm happy to take January, but let's, and maybe we should just discuss that in January.
Yeah.
Because then we'll have the council members. Let's do that. Let's kind of just discuss it.
I think new members take all of 2024 this year.
Mark, you got January?
You can't say anything.
Okay. So but Marie, keep us on track with that. Like, let's talk about that. Okay.
When you've done enough, can you tell if I just send you like one from last year or 2 years ago? You're like, this seems familiar. Seems vaguely
I
familiar.
don't know how many of them
With
are that
COVID
different.
raging through our communities.
Give it a try, Buzzy.
Oh, Buzzy.
Thanks, Greg. That's for you on your.
All right. Alan, bring this back into order.
All right, Roger's asked me to keep this brief for 12 years. And I'm just gonna ignore him like I always
Oh,
do.
yeah.
But I do want to thank Roger and Craig. This has been fantastic serving with both of you. I think you are both extremely exemplary in the way that you've served your community. So thank you, just from me, from the city staff. It's been an honor just working with you over all of these years. Even though I do disagree with you on a clean desk policy, but again, agree to disagree on that one. All right, jumping down through some of these items coming up. Thanks everyone for the Christmas party. I mean, all those who put so much time and effort into that, that was fantastic. PD for Shop with the Cop. Again, we went over a lot of these things coming up. The Silent Santa, it's already occurred, but the Christmas lighting contest, newly elected official training. Congrats. Mark in the audience here today, coming up here shortly. Then the New Year's at noon. That's actually on December 30th because it's an odd weekend. New Year's is on Monday. So that'll be 10:30 to noon where the kids count down because they can't stay up till midnight that day. It's a pretty fun event. The other things we want to look at are things that we've done in the past where we go out. You guys have been a streets department employee for a day, dodging traffic and watching people wave at you. And then we've been, the things we want to look at though this year, perhaps look at a recreation site visit, maybe a library site visit or a fire department, if that's okay. And we would go through and just visit these departments and go over just some general things that they're doing. So you get to experience a little bit more of what each of those departments are doing. I'll get with you in the coming weeks and maybe we can set up some things over the winter months that might work out for your schedules. Jumping down through the Regency balls coming up, the Easter egg hunt on March 23rd. It's a little early this year. Easter's a little earlier. And then obviously things that we need to look at are office grand openings and the office grand opening. And I think the community center groundbreaking is another thing that we'll have to look at. These are other events in there. You see Memorial Day's in there, May 27th. And the Utah League, a mid-year conference, April 17th to 19th. Just put these things on your schedule though, including Mark, of things coming up in the coming months. Just be leery of those, but that's basically all I have.
Okay, anything from the council? Okay, we're gonna reserve this motion for our two departers.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Craig, second by Roger, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
One motion.
Good luck, you guys.
I know how to do.
Let's go do.
Craig, I have never seen you move quite as quickly
I'm
as
just-
you did.
Done quickly.
All right.
Oh, I better know.
Happy to go.
Very good, Bill. Verbal's got nothing on you.
No.
I like my suit.
I like it.
Instrument.
I do many.
You know I brought a hat in.
Yeah.
I know you're bored and. I like it too. I can't believe he gets that.
We'll come to meet it. I can't remember. Let's go to Canada. You two are choice. There's no benefit.
Good with either one.
It's good. So Roger said no benefit.
Show my husband.
Okay, let's go. Because I gotta get out of this late.
No, I can't stay next to you.
You weren't even
Dude,
close.
he's so mad at me.
And then we'll run it. in the new building that we're here.
Sounds good. You did.
So what's I gonna do to get
It's a more, it's a simplified system for putting in. They came in like, we could do the same system, it's fantastic. Like, look at Gordon. And pump it over. Everyone we need is back there, yeah. And they just said, okay. I don't think we realized that we were one thing from putting a hot belly stove in. Yes. Oh, the list of upcoming events or that calendar?
Well, both would be good, but I was thinking that last, but I think you said the calendar events. And that, mine is working now.
Let me do that. Okay, let me share a few things with you if it's up and running. I'll share this with you. Before we have a few not delete. And if you go to the executive session folder. Should have fun.
Yeah, I'm sure tomorrow. Well, I'm saying, right-handed, but must be a good place. It'll slow down.
Have a head start.
Question within that, it's got this, employment thing. There's a section in that about at-will employees. Oh, that applies. So she says.
You're
You are
you're technically an employee. Yeah.
And they have. IT stuff.
Yeah.
So as you get past.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at is, it's just catered to all employees, it's not catered to elected officials. So unless you're doing like illegal stuff financially, you're set.
I know.
Like we can't get rid of it.
Well, you're, I mean. Yes.
Refer that back to the county. Half of the people should be on it. and then
They
it's
have a
over.
lot of issues.
Wow, do you know Val brought that up with me and I was so sorry about like 20 years ago? I joked around and was like, oh, county stocks. And it was at that time and I said, why? He's like, they're all elected. They're all their own bosses. Like if they're horrible and they never come into work, there's nothing. Yeah. It's literally until you do something illegal or criminal, and then you are good to go. So these folders I'm sharing with you, one city council and planning commission, this one is like everything across the board in the city. Usually if you have to find something, you start searching with them, you'll be able to find stuff out. But again, the only rule is do not.
Well, that's our.
You can do whatever you want and anyone you spell it. And don't open the budget and hit a space bar. Going does that all the time. And it literally says like, oh, we got 300,000 in this line and hit a space bar. And it goes away and then I'm just like, all right.
Can you make it so it's not?
It's not the true budget. So,
But I mean.
yeah.
You are not guessing it.
But the thing that we wanted to do when we started was the whole budget is completely revamped top to bottom. I literally walked in and I was just like, Diana, lay it on me. Like, how bad is it? And they're like, you have she's like, you have the worst budget in the entire state. And I was like, okay,
Thank you, dear.
that's pretty blunt. So I said, who has a good one? She wouldn't tell me, but then she hinted. So I went and sat down with 3 or 4 other cities. And then we set up each department as a quasi enterprise fund. They're not a true enterprise fund. And we can go over this later. Like parks, it's not a true enterprise fund. We treat it that way for setting up their budget. Meaning they have revenue and expense. They don't balance because they're a general fund. But what we wanted to do is say, department head, you are in charge of this. This is your baby. They meet once a month with myself. Scott will send them updates. There's red flags that pop up if they do go over automatically. And then we just sit down, we go over it every few months and just say, where are you at? This is your baby. How are you doing with it? See, it pops up automatically if you go over. And then we go over it together all the time. But it's to put more ownership back into the department. Because one of the things that I do, embezzlements and horrible things beforehand was just one location, one budget, giant same Excel sheet going down 2,000 lines. And that's what happened where you couldn't keep track of anything. This one's very simple, like if you go through it. Actually, I have more columns than I want. Yeah. So we'll go over a detail in the kind of notes.
And then again, you're gonna email me or share with me that.
Yeah. I did, but
Okay.
check and see if you got that. And that,
Is it in a folder?
it'll come in the North Logan City folder, but no, not in that folder, sorry. I shared that with you. Let me try it again.
Well, your husband's doing okay.
So this will give you an indication of things coming up.
You may have emailed it. Yeah, I wondered that. Oh, he's a cool boy.
I know he does. Michael will not be.
It's a lot better than who's the other guy that got in trouble, when I was a kid?
Like Cal? No, it's the
not-
guy that,
no.
what's the other?
He did basketball.
Yeah,
Marv Albert. Marv Albert, he was everyone's favorite. Yeah, I still remember his quote when Jordan goes up to shoot and switches to the other hand and he yells. And then, man, he was he's a little bit questionable in behavior. I'm probably alone in this besides you. I couldn't stand Tony Romo the whole time he played in because he was a cowboy. Couldn't stand anything. He became an announcer and he's my favorite.
he is, he's like a prophet.
And he just shoots from the cup.
Stay. And before, the out see before the game.
He's like, and he's Johnny Miller. He's also Johnny Miller where he doesn't hold back. He's like, well, that was a horrible pass. Shouldn't have been making that. You want to hear that. You want to hear some
His
real
voice
dice.
is a little weird. He doesn't have a great voice, but he speaks truth.
Yeah.
And he-
You love it.
He just did it immediately. It was fun.
Yeah.
So have you watched the Peyton and Eli Manning
Yes.
No.
of NFL? So on Monday Night Football, there's on ESPN2, they're the ones that do the commentating.
It's.
Oh.
It's
I-
so funny.
No, I've
it's good.
heard about this, and then I haven't watched the Kelsey special.
I haven't seen that either, so I heard that was good today twice.
He and his brother just sit down and it's like a special on just the both. No, I'm gonna have to try that.
It's much better.
I watched it in Spanish and my wife's been so mad at me and I was just like, I don't know any of these words. Like, I watched a jazz game because it only came through in Spanish on their TV for some reason. It was blocked in the English. Somehow I could sneak in on ESPN Plus and I watched it in Spanish and my kids said I was like, I had to learn every word. I'd never heard any of those words like
In Spanish, yeah.
shoot, assist, rebound. No, you don't talk.
That's the word. That's the word, gunk and money, baby.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, the same word for shoot is like in English, shoot a gun, but it's also punch. And so it was kind of like really hard when I was like, who punch? Oh, shot. And then I watched it again and I was like,
He went positive. Well, he didn't get preference. That was, yeah, so he got mad.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, the chief, Kelsey, that coolest play I've ever seen in my life to win the game.
It was so cool.
They threw a wheel route to Kelsey, caught it in the middle of the field, ran, and in the middle of the field, turn, yeah, I can't do that.
The one where he catches it and then stops and always twists the opposite way and all the defense.
That's like baby steps compared to what you're gonna see.
It was so great.
And then they overturned it because the dude's offensive foot was in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but they